YouTube, welcome to the channel. Now then, on today's video we are going to be looking at this beastie. It's the HBX 903A Vanguard. It's a 1/12 scale four-wheel drive off-road truck. This is the brushless version, which is denoted hopefully by the little purple sticker there, which means it's the purple bodied version, which is the brushless version, hopefully, fingers crossed. Now this has very kindly been donated to the channel for review by my nephew, who's just purchased this. He's not seen it yet. It's not even been out of the box, it's still sealed. So he's very kindly let the channel and you guys basically get the first look. So without further ado, let's get this baby out and have a look. Now the 903 is based on the 901 and 901A that we've previously tested. So underneath this truck body and these monster sort of truck wheels, the chassis and everything else should be identical to the 901A, the brushless version. But anyway, enough waffle, let's get into it and see what we get. Then in the box we've got our instruction and parts manual. We've got a set of stickers for the bodywork. We've got a bag containing a USB battery charger and some spare body clips. We've also got our transmitter, which is the ubiquitous HBX brushless version. I'm a big fan of these transmitters, to be honest. They feel really solid, and I'll tell you what, they never let you down, these things don't. And it takes 3 AA batteries, which you have to supply. I think there's plenty of adjustment for things like steering trim. We've got a throttle dual rate. We can reverse the controls. These are nice controllers, these are. They're good quality controller. Last but not least, we've actually got the truck itself, and I must admit this thing looks really cool in the truck body, especially this purple version. This is in fact the brushless version. I can tell immediately because we've got some oil shocks there. The transmission is metal. We've got metal drive shafts at the front, we've got metal drive shafts at the rear, and you can tell immediately this is the brushless version because the wheels are held on by nuts, not the sort of brushed screws that you get. Anyway, let's whip the body off this. I mean, this thing is a good looking truck, and we've got a set of lights here as well. This thing is a good looking truck. I actually prefer this version to the sort of desert buggy version, the 901. This purple shell looks fantastic on this, and as do these sort of chunky truck tyres. So straight away out the box, it looks pretty cool, this does. Right then, underneath that gorgeous purple bodywork we have a little LiPo here with a Dean's connector, and it is a 1600 milliamp hour job. Now they do a battery deal from Banggood on these, which you can have up to 3 of these 1600 milliamp hour units. I would personally would go for the battery deal, as one battery in these things is never enough, but these little 1600 milliamp hour units do pack plenty of punch, and they are quite a good little battery to get with the truck. We've got our brushless motor here, which I believe is a 2845. Can't remember what kV it is, I'll put it in the screen below. We've got a 35 amp or a 45 amp hour ESC stroke receiver, and connected to that is obviously the motor and this 3-wire steering servo. Now it's the one size up from a micro steering servo. Now then, I'm not going to do a teardown on this, A, because it belongs to my nephew, and B, if you want to see a full teardown, you can go over to and watch the 901A video, because basically, apart from the wheels and the body, these things are exactly the same. I mean, he's got these oil shocks on, these HBX oil shocks adjustable for preload, and these things standard straight out of the box are really good quality. They're usually a little bit soft on the back, but it's preload, so we can adjust that out. Now with this thing being the brushless version, we've got a complete metal transmission. We've got metal diffs at the front and the rear. There's a metal drive shaft with a metal reduction gear on it. I've got the 901A, like I've mentioned before, and it has proved absolutely bulletproof. I've never broken any of the transmission componentry, or nothing's ever worn out. The only time I've damaged anything is when I hit a tree virtually at full pelt and sort of broke one of the front drive shafts, but that's completely my fault. These things are tough as old boots. Interestingly as well, HBX don't actually claim a top speed figure for this, so depending on how my nephew feels, we may or may not check the top speed, because there's nothing to check it against, because they don't actually give you a figure. I have quickly read through the instruction manual, which isn't like me. and I've learned that there's a port here for a cooling fan should you so desire one, but I must admit that little radiator on top of the motor does an excellent, or that little radiator on top of the motor does an excellent job of keeping the motor cool. All that's left to do now is, I think I'm going to do him a massive favour. I'm going to put the stickers on the bodywork for him. I'm going to charge this battery up, and then we can take this thing out for a rip. I am quite excited, and I bet he will be as well when he finds out that it's turned up. But anyway, enough waffle. Let's get the battery charged up. Let's take this thing for a rip on the test track. Right, I finished putting these stickers on the bodywork, and as you can see, it looks pretty cool, that does. I'm just checking out the lights. They're nice and bright at the front. So there's plenty of power in them things. Steering servo, it's pretty fast actually, not bad at all. It wasn't, as I'm sure it was a bit slower on the 901, but the wheels and tyres were different. These seem, the servo in this seems pretty quick. Now I can't remember if I mentioned the price to you guys. With the single battery it's 126 quid, which is approximately $161 for our American brethren, but I just thought I'd mention that before we go any further. Anyway, I'm dying to see what this thing is like, so let's go and spank it around the track. Right then, back inside, what do we think of HBX's 903A here? Well, let's go for some good and bad points, shall we? We'll start with the bad points, and there aren't many, to be honest. Well, in fact, I can only think of one. Because this thing is quite light and it's quite powerful, it is quite skittish, and it does take some reining in. It does like to swap ends. I mean, if the wheelbase was slightly longer, I feel it would have been a little bit better. But it does like to swap ends, and you do have to be careful with the throttle, because it is quite a quick little RC, this, and it doesn't weigh a lot. And if you're not careful, you can end up, well, your backside can end up overtaking your front side. So you do have to be quite careful with the throttle. I found it advantageous to turn the dual rate down, especially on that loose surface, and that did make a massive difference. Also, we could sort of experiment with shock oil viscosity in an attempt to sort of make it ride a little bit better. But that's the only fault I can think, is this thing is very, very skittish when you try to control it. Right then, let's have some pros, and the first of which is the speed and the power of this thing. Despite it really being a budget RC, that 2845 brushless motor gives this thing plenty of go even on 2S. I mean, it's more than capable of keeping up with my brother's Ram Raider on the straights. So this thing, I think personally, and I know it's been criticised by some people for being a bit slow, but we didn't find that at all. This thing has got plenty of go in it, plenty of speed. Loved it. The next thing we really liked about this thing was the body. I mean, the camera doesn't really do it justice, but this purple and orange paint scheme looks absolutely fantastic. And the looks of the thing looks dead mean as a truck. I personally prefer this truck version to the buggy 901A that I've got. The next thing I've got written down on my list is the robust nature of these HBX chassis. I mean, the transmission on these 900 series don't tend to give you any problems at all. Mine, I've yet to change any of the transmission components on my 901, and I'll run it on 3S. It's got a hot motor in it. I give it absolute death and nothing's ever gone wrong, apart from a drive shaft that I broke when I ran it into a post, but that's obviously my fault. But this thing, we jumped it, rolled it, bashed it, hit trees, nothing broke, nothing fell off. I think these HBXs are tough little cookies. Right then, conclusion time. Would I recommend the HBX 903A to you guys? And I'm going to say yes. I mean, it's not the cheap RC it used to be, but everything's gone up really. I mean, it's pretty quick, pretty tough, and most importantly, we had a right laugh with it, and my nephew thoroughly enjoyed himself. So it gets a big thumbs up from me, another winner from HBX. As with all the RCs that are featured on this channel, there will be a link in the description to where you can get this from. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a big thumbs up, and if you're feeling that way inclined, hit that subscribe button for more similar future content. Once again guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again very, very soon. Thank you.